Session, yeah, starting. Okay, you have the control, Paulo.
Thank you, Corrado, and thank you everyone for spending your time and investing in your learning. The first disclaimer that I've got to do is actually, I'm not here to train anyone. I'm here to actually just facilitate the learning. So as a facilitator, I'm actually aware that most of you will know a lot of this stuff. And it's just like, not a couple of, a group of friends here, actually bringing all these concepts, connections together, and trying to kind of maybe revisit Scrum and the evolution of Scrum over the years since the beginning. So everything that you're going to see here today is public domain. It's all on the internet. It's all on the Scrum guides. And I think doing this was helpful for me because it made me actually spend time understanding what the latest changes are, what the latest how Scrum has evolved over the years, but also relating back to my experience as a Scrum Master in 2010, and actually helped me to actually remember. Oh yes, I do remember this, and I'm hoping that that will help with each and every one of you as well. As we discuss these concepts. The second disclaimer is that I don't actually claim to be an expert in Scrum. So like most of you probably, I've got a Scrum Master certification and I've got several Agile coaching certifications, but I don't think I can claim being an expert on anything. Uh, but yeah, I do know a little bit here and there, and I'm experienced in Scrum, so I still practice Scrum quite a lot with my teams because I'm an Agile coach. Um, what else do I need to say? I'd like to make this as interactive as possible, otherwise it would not be a facilitation. So I'm not here to train anyone. I'm here to facilitate and bring our knowledge together. And so I will invite each and every one of you to actually contribute with your experiences, with the things that you know, asking questions. Don't just ask questions to me, let's ask questions to the group. And people are very welcome to ask any questions whenever you want. To start with, okay. To start with, welcome, Ming. To start with, I'd like to ask, you know, what brings you here today? And we've prepared a Menti. So I'm going to use Menti today. So this is the code 97 54 620. So if you can bring up your mobile phones uh, and go to menti.com and use that code and just write a couple of words why what brings you here today. Desire to learn. Okay, learn. Compare experience. I like that. Understand impacts to team. Yep. Discovery, intrigue, desire. Consolidate learning. Understand. New Scrum. What's new? Yep. Okay, and I think we've had 12 people. Um, it would be nice if the others also join. How many people do we have? One second, let me check. Um, 20, okay. So let's give just a couple more minutes. Feel free to unmute your phones, your mics, and jump in whenever you've got a question.
Yeah, Paulo, I'm here. I'm adding the link to the menti.com and the
Ah,
number and
okay. Yeah,
whatever.
thanks. Yeah. Okay, so we've got 15 people. I'm sure others will join later. Anyway, stay on that Menti because there will be more questions towards the end. So thanks very much for those contributions. I think there is nothing out of the expectation. So, we're setting up our expectations. There's a lot of learning, understanding, impact, changes, new Scrum, and so on and so forth. So let's have a look what's coming next. The second thing that I'd like to ask is, let's build up our alliance for this hour. Corrado, correct me if I'm wrong. Till what time do we have usually? Till what time does it go? Is it
Okay.
7:30 or is
The
it 7:45
session
or?
normally lasts 1 hour and a half. Okay. Normally we start at 6. Now we are starting at 6:30. I think that we have 1 hour for sure.
Okay,
But let's see the dynamic. Eventually we
that's
can
fine.
extend the 30 minutes more.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So what do we need from each other in this session for the session to go well? Okay, so some of the examples are, we need presence, support, we need to respect each other. We may not want to actually participate when a question gets asked.
Sorry, Paolo, there is a number of Mentimeter on the slide that is
Yeah.
different.
1 second. I've not passed yet. 1 second. Let me just go to the Menti.
So it's a different Mentimeter.
1 second. It's a different Mentimeter. No, it's the same. What do we need from each
Okay,
other?
it's just on the slide. No, no problem, no problem. Go ahead, go ahead.
So I'm not sure if you got the question. So what do we need in order for this session to go really well? Sharing, open mind, interaction, respect. Yep. Sharing twice. That's good. Ask questions. Yes. Contribution, if people are comfortable. A good facilitator. I don't know if we can get that. Alcohol and respect. Yeah, feel free to have a few drinks. It's past 6 o'clock anyway, so. Communication, feedback, active participation, interactive. Okay, so I'm happy with this. I think we got the idea. If you are free to participate, and obviously you've got the right to pass if you don't want to participate. But yeah, the more people participate, the better value we will get out of this session. And especially because we are doing this on virtual environment, so online. So we need to be open and helping each other. So okay, thank you very much for that. We got 16 people this time. So this is the agenda that I'm proposing. So the first thing that we'll go through is how did Scrum was actually created? How did the Scrum idea came about? And then we're going to look into the Scrum guides and the main editions over the years. And then finally, what's new on the latest 2020 guide. And then at the end, we'll have a 16 questions quiz where you are welcome to put your real name, or you can actually just choose a nickname. No judging. No need to, if you want to play, you play. If you don't want to play, if you don't not comfortable playing, that's absolutely fine. I'd like to find out as well from you guys, and you can put it in a chat. What's your level of experience in Scrum? Are you beginners? Are you intermediate or experienced? So if you don't mind, for each one of you, could you? So I'm going to say, who is a beginner, who is an intermediate, and who is an experienced Scrum practitioner. So feel free to just put something on this on the chat so that we know. Intermediate, yeah, okay. Corrado is XP, extreme programming. I think I'm experienced. Well done, Ming. So you can facilitate as well. Prasanna, experienced. Zach, reasonably experienced. Probably 3.5 out of 5. Well, that's very detailed. Francesca, beginner. Sarah, intermediate. And beginner, intermediate. Okay, cool. Medium, Dave, well done. Okay, so let's go to the next slide then. What you see here, this was actually supposed to go one by one. I don't know why it went all at once, but anyway, doesn't matter. So Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber presented to the world at Warpsland the first paper on Scrum in 1995. And the title of that paper was Scrum Development Process. That paper was actually based on a previous article from the new product development game from 1986 by Hirotaka Takeyoshi and Ikujiri Nonaka. And they were actually describing, and they actually used the word Scrum, and they said, so they were the first ones to actually use the word Scrum, and they mentioned that it was based on collaboration and a more efficient way of actually delivering, work, software at that point. And then Jeff and Ken actually picked up on that work from those two researchers and came up with the first paper and submitted that paper to that conference, OOFPSLA, in 1995 in Texas. And then in 1998, they also published an extension paper, so a second paper, entitled An Extension Pattern Language for Hyper-Productive Software Development. And of course, Scrum evolved over the years, and actually the first Scrum book was published in 2001 and was called Agile Software Development with Scrum. I have never read, I've never seen, but I've seen it in Amazon, and it had quite a few different editions. So, you might recognize the cover. It was just like this, yeah. And then 2002, Schwaber and others founded the Scrum Alliance. Then Schwaber left the Scrum Alliance and founded scrum.org. And that's when the first edition of the Scrum Guide was published in 2010, still published by the Scrum Alliance. And then all consequent editions were published by scrum.org. So the second one in 2011, the third one in 2011 as well in October, and then the fourth in 2013, then 2016, 2017, 2020. So, so as you can see, quite a few different editions of the Scrum Guide. Interestingly enough, the authors, the co-creators of Scrum, so Jeff and Ken, say that Scrum did not change; it evolved. Yeah, so it's just better described now. So that's their way to actually explain why so many different things. But they are not actually advocating that Scrum has changed. It's just like they're finding ways to describe the framework in a better way. Any questions so far? Were you aware that there were so many editions of the Scrum Guide? And is this information actually relevant?
I suppose it's interesting how the world is how it's changed to the world. What's actually changing along the way? Why would it change? Because we've been producing software in all that time. What else will we be doing with? What else can we do with Scrum now that we weren't doing before? As it's especially, my experience the last year has been working in government organizations that are using that more and more. So it's interesting to see how it will evolve over time to its uses.
And I'm happy that you said that, Andrew, because that's exactly what we're going to see in the next few slides. Is actually how it evolved over time. And we're going to look into each one of those changes and actually ask the audience, what do you think happened with that? So the first change, first, as I said, first guide published in 2010. From 2010 to 2011, the first thing that they've done is to replace the word commitment from sprint planning. So sprint planning being the first event where the team used to commit to a number of stories or a number of story points. They're not, number of, let's just say a number of stories to deliver on that sprint, right? And I still remember those days. Sorry?
Paulo, sorry for the interruption, but there is a question actually in the chat that is really relevant at the moment. And Shaju, hope it's okay for the name, Shaju, asked about the difference between the word evolving and the word changing.
I think evolving kind of assumes or presumes that there is an evolution. So we build up from something and something becomes better. That's what I would say evolving. So we are incrementally improving or, better, making the whole thing better. Perhaps even closer to agile principles and values. Whilst changing might just start all over again, might be completely new. Yeah. And I don't think it is the intent of the co-writers of Scrum to admit that things have changed. I think what they want is actually things became better. They evolved. Does that make sense at all? Who asked the question?
Yeah, my name is Shaju. Yes,
Shaju,
I did
yeah.
ask that question. It kind of makes sense, and I know it's a difficult question, but it's still, I feel evolution itself is a change. I might be wrong, but evolution.
Evolution is definitely a change. But what we're trying to say is that we're not starting from scratch. We are, if things have evolved, it's because we are not starting. You're not starting from the beginning. We're not just completely rephrase that, or and they are very adamant about that. They say Scrum has not changed. Scrum has evolved. So it's just the meaning of the word. Change could presume that we just erasing the whole thing and starting all over again, maybe completely different. And it's not completely different. It's just perhaps the meaning has become stronger, or the practices have become more relevant, or actually, with the latest, especially with the latest guide, it's become a lot less prescriptive. So some of the practices have actually, the detail of those practices have actually been removed. For example, the 3 questions on the daily Scrum has been removed because they think that they were too prescriptive. They were mandating a lot from the daily Scrum, and now people have started doing other things that still meet the sprint goal or still maximizes the collaboration that you want to get out of the daily Scrum, and they are equally valid. And so that's what they said. It's not actually, if you want to continue doing the 3 questions, please do so. But it's up to you to, if you find something else that will allow the collaboration, to maximize collaboration in those 24 hours that you do the daily Scrum, then well done. Just do it. Yeah.
Yep, makes sense. Thanks.
Cool. So commitment replaced by forecast. Does anyone remember that? And I remember when I first did my Scrum Master training, it used to be commitment. Yeah. So somewhere around that time, between 2010 and 2011, commitment was actually replaced by forecast, and best endeavors to actually deliver work based on the forecast, not based on commitment. And especially also because they realized that commitment is quite a strong word, and people were like afraid of committing on anything, and also commitment was being missed many times. And therefore they decided to actually remove commitment. Does everyone remember that? And the second question is, does commitment still exist in the current Scrum Guide or not?
I think I remember the drop of commitment to forecast, and I agree with that because it ends up making it very easy to put pressure on teams and force them into, you know, overstretching and etc. I think commitment is still in the new version. I think it's now more about the commitment to the team, the fact that you belong to a team. I think that part is still there, but I don't think it's to do with the work as such.
Yeah, correct. So commitment still existed as a value. Yeah, still exists as a value, but there are 3 new commitments that have been added in the latest guide. Nothing to do with work committed, but other types of commitment, and we're going to look at that a little bit later. Okay, so so the next change is product backlog prioritized has been replaced by product backlog ordered. So order has got a better meaning than prioritization. And for me, this was really difficult to understand. Does anyone know why? What's the difference between ordering and prioritizing?
There might be 2 priorities with the same level of priority, but you still want to order it one over the other.
Yeah, I would definitely accept that. Okay, what else?
I feel like if you have something prioritized, you can assume that something that is lower is completely irrelevant, which is not always the case, I believe.
Prioritization based on the value.
Yeah, absolutely, Prasanna. That you're absolutely right. And what about order?
Can be
So
everything.
I think, yeah, for me, prioritization can have multiple dimensions. Right? Prioritized on what reason? You know, business value is one element that you can prioritize over. Alphabetical is another way you can. There's a way of prioritizing which is more than. Sorry, you have multiple ways of choosing how to prioritize, but you still have to sequence the work in a way that is achievable. So you do have to work out how to order the work. That's also right. So niche is coming. You could also order alphabetically as well, but in order to deliver something, you may have to deliver in a sequence that is not necessarily highest priority first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also Prasanna also mentioned that prioritization is usually, especially I think in US, is usually related to return on investment. So items are prioritized based on value and return on investment. And ordered might not be only return on investment. It is also return on investment, but it's also temporary order. So not temporary, but timeline, order by timeline as well. So and some of the examples that I've read talk about some features, although in very high value, may be releasable only during Christmas, for example. Yeah, so even though that feature is really high value and should be really high, it would make sense to release that only at Christmas time. It could be like an item that only sells during Christmas, or it could be like a feature that people will use more during Christmas time. So say, for example, I don't know, some promotions, or maybe even the Black Friday, you know, promotions or something related to Black Friday. So therefore, you know, if you prioritize, you'd usually put those items higher because they return a certain value. But actually, if you order it, it means that you would not put that item higher if it is, for example, March or April. You would wait for November to order that item. Yeah. So that's kind of the examples that I've read about. Not sure if that makes sense for everyone or not. I think that's mostly US terminology. Then
yeah, there are some comments on the chat, Paulo.
Yeah.
And particularly the last one, you may not always need to do the most important thing first.
Yeah.
So they are not priority in terms of importance, but have to be done.
Exactly. Exactly, and that very much depends on the product owner circumstances. You know, what the product owner knows, because the product owner knows something that other people might not know, and therefore that's why. Just curiosity. Who of us, who here actually still says the product owner is accountable for the prioritization of the product backlog? I still said that quite recently. And I've stopped saying that. I've stopped saying that once I've learned the difference. And now I say product backlog should be ordered, not prioritized. Okay, but we still say that, many of us. And this is why I think this session is important. We still hear commitment for, we still maybe coach or train teams to actually commit work at the end of the sprint planning first meeting. We expect the team to commit, but actually, since 2011, the only thing required is for the team to forecast how many items they can actually deliver. And so those are important things to bear in mind. Okay, let's go to the next one. PB grooming. So product backlog grooming has been added in 2011 as part of the refinement. So, or they used to call product backlog grooming as a kind of an event or something wishful to do in order to look ahead next sprints and see, get the team to actually understand what's coming next. Didn't exist before. 2010 did not have it. So 2011 introduced product backlog grooming. Development team, also this is important. So the members of the development team as a concept existed in 2010, and now everyone is a developer. So what do they say? They don't recognize the roles of test or tester or QA or business analysis or senior developer. Everyone is actually a developer, regardless of your knowledge or regardless of what you are a specialist at. Yeah, so everyone is treated as developers. So there are 3 roles: Scrum Master, Product Owner, Developer. And we'll see later why that continues to be relevant, because they want, obviously for us in IT, developer is very much associated to software, but actually you would like to know that developer is very much associated to a product development. Okay, so any type of product. And so it makes sense to call everyone a developer because we are developing a product, regardless of that product being software or not. And more than ever, now it becomes more relevant to call everyone a developer because not everyone is a programmer. Not everyone. So you may want to develop a marketing product, or you might want to develop a building, as a builder, and you might want to use Scrum for that. So that becomes even more relevant now. Who remembers chicken and pigs? Extremely, brings me memories. Chicken and pigs. Anyone wants to talk about that for the others to hear? What's the story about chicken and pigs?
It's about commitment. So the chicken, the pig is more committed than the chicken because the chicken is just providing the eggs and the pig is providing himself.
Exactly. So the story is that a chicken and a pig met at the road, and they had this brilliant idea. Let's start a restaurant, and and so they started talking, and they say, okay, what would be the name of the restaurant? And someone said bacon and eggs, or I think the chicken said bacon and eggs, and the pig said, oh no. I don't agree with that because I would be fully committed and whilst you would be only involved. So the chicken will lay the eggs every day, so nothing will happen to the chicken. But for the bacon to come, the pig would have to die. So that's the difference between, committed and involved. Now they've actually removed the reference to chicken and pigs in 2011. We kept talking about it for a number of years after 2011, I'm pretty sure. I remember me talking about, and I remember seeing slides of chicken and pigs, even in latest 2016. I've not seen for a while, I must admit. But yeah, the reality is that the reference to chicken and pigs has actually been removed in 2011 from the Scrum Guide. So this is just to show, once they might, things might evolve, but it takes time for everyone to catch up. But that's interesting. Thanks, Andrew, for bringing that up again. And a reference to undone work. So undone work at that point was actually, the work that still was committed for a sprint, but actually not delivered, but required for the release. And so that reference was also removed in 2011. And now we go from 2011 to 2013. And the first thing we see, so remember, product backlog grooming was introduced in 2011. It has been renamed in 2013 to product backlog refinement or product backlog refined. Yeah, I think the reason is obvious. Grooming has got like a different meaning, a different sense, especially in Europe, not so much in US. Again, this is something that I still see in slides today. People talk about this event as product backlog grooming, but actually it has been replaced or renamed from grooming to refinement in 2013, so 7 years ago. But it's still very much alive. Yeah, were you aware of this, that had been renamed in 2013? Anyone uses still grooming?
I was still using grooming in the last company, so
yeah,
a couple of weeks ago.
But yeah, me too.
I think it's sort of a known name in the UK. Maybe, as you say, the concept of grooming is a bit more scary otherwise.
Yeah. But yeah, so as coaches and trainers, we can, I usually say product backlog refinement, formerly known as product backlog grooming. And I think they get it. That, it's up to us, right? So we need to kind of educate. Sometimes we need to kind of show the difference in our language, and people eventually will get it. The other thing is ceremonies. I don't even know where ceremonies came from. I did a search and I could not find ceremonies anywhere. Even on the earlier guides, it says events. It doesn't say ceremonies. So I don't really know where ceremonies came from. As far as I've seen, all this talks about events. So yeah, so I'm not sure. Anyway, sprint planning used to be 2 events. It used to be part 1 and part 2. I'm not sure if you remember that. It's now only 1 event, and that change happened in 2013. Maybe the questions to ask is the what. So the product owner defines the what, and development team defines the how. Yeah, so still breaking down stories into tasks if required, but yes, it's just 1 event in the beginning of the sprint. And then ready and done are finally introduced as states of transparency. So transparency required 2 new states, the state of ready and the state of done for product backlog items. It's funny because they don't talk about the definition of ready and the definition of done at this point. In fact, they never talked about the definition of ready, even though we usually use definition of ready as an artifact, but they talk about definition of done later, but not in 2013. At this point, they used to talk about done as a state for a story. And I remember around that time, if you're using Jira, we used to create a field for a story, and we used to tick that box if it is ready and if it is done at the end of the sprint. Yeah, so we used to use a field, customizable field for that to reflect the fact that it was state. Definition of done came later, and definition of ready started being also adopted later. All events are time boxed. That was not very clear before what the time boxes were, so it became clear in 2013. And then also a section describing the detail of daily Scrum, because they realize that the daily Scrum, well, it still is in many clients that I coach, a status meeting, a meeting for the manager, or a meeting for the Scrum Master who we think is the manager, or we think that is managing us as developers. And so that's where they actually created a section on what the daily Scrum is all about in 2013. And it has been there since 2013. So not a status meeting. And also a whole section, new section on the concept of value in the sprint review. So, you know, it's about return on investment. It's about experimenting, empiricism at the end. And it's also, did we deliver the sprint goal or not? So those type of questions at the end of the delivery, just before increment. 2013 to 2016, there were not many changes, but it's come about. It's the values that you see there on top. So respect, openness, focus, commitment, courage took a very strong emphasis and enhanced the pillars of transparency, inspection, and adaptation to build trust for everyone. So that's where the Scrum Guide actually mentions those values very strongly, and that's the point that they want to bring up. And I think to a certain extent also, you know, creates this environment where, you know, it's linked to the agile principles and creates this environment where actually we're trying to trust the team, and the team needs those type of values within to have a safe space. So respect, courage to be challenged, to deliver the product increment, and so on and so forth, in focus, one thing at a time. You know, so many of those values relate directly to the agile principles. And in 2017, then a new section introduces the Scrum Master as a servant leader. So promoter and supporter of Scrum. That was completely new. I remember when it happened, everyone was talking about it. Oh, servant leader, lots and lots of decks talking about the Scrum Master as a servant leader and what the servant leader actually meant. And we've actually spent like the last 3 years mastering that as Scrum Master. What is actually a Scrum? What is actually a Scrum Master, and how can we actually behave as a servant leader? And then updated daily Scrum section to emphasize 24 hours of collaboration with 3 questions regarding the sprint goal. Remember the 3 questions that we introduced earlier? Now the 3 questions were actually making a direct reference to the sprint goal. So what did I do yesterday to help the team getting closer to meet the sprint goal? What am I going to do today to help the team getting closer to meet the sprint goal? What's in my way to stop me from, or stop the team reaching the sprint goal? So those are the 3 questions very much related to the sprint goal. Again, clarification on the time boxes. And here we're talking about defining time boxes for a 1-month sprint. So remember, Scrum Guide does not say what you should do if you have a 2-week sprint, or what are the time boxes for the 2-week sprint. You use common sense. You can take up to the maximum of XYZ time boxes, yeah? But it doesn't say how to behave in, you know, so if you have a 2-week sprint, what will be your maximum duration of a retrospective? It's still the same, it's 3 hours. It doesn't say that you have to take 1.5 hours because it's half of a month. It doesn't say that. It just says maximum time boxes are so-and-so. And therefore the team actually agrees what is the time box that they want to use. What is the appropriate time box for, say, 2 weeks? I'm not sure. It's whatever the team is comfortable with. And also continuous improvement. One item from the retro as a way of actually making sure that we're continuously improve at least, so not one item, but at least one item should make their way, should make its way to the product backlog. So that's also a change from 2017. They wanted to emphasize on continuous improvement. How do you continuously improve? Well, you pick up at least one item from the retro and add it to the product backlog to make sure that the team improves. So that was added in 2017 as well. Any questions so far? Any observations that you would like to make? Anything that is new for you?
In terms of the dev team, I know that we talk about this in 2020 because they've changed it again to reflect again the nature of Scrum being used. Way back in 2011, whereas developers usually in the software environment are developers or testers, did they include other people that were supporting them, like business analysts and people like that? Or how did they, because it was difficult for me in the last job because I had 3 business analysts, which was quite a lot with one product owner. So was that something that was touched on in a more relevant?
Okay,
now?
I'm going to address some of the questions and I'm going to address your question as well, Andrew. So Shaju, can a PO be called a developer? No. So the developer is in reference to the dev team. So in these editions of Scrum, so up to 2017, I should say, we used to have a development team and we used to have the largest Scrum team. The largest Scrum team included development team plus product owner plus Scrum Master. So the development team plus Scrum Master plus product owner would make the Scrum team. But when you talk about development team, it's only developers, i.e. testers, BAs, I don't know, programmers, marketing people, whatever skills are required to develop the product. So PO is outside the development team in that sense, yeah. But that creates kind of a hierarchy, or kind of almost like a vertical organization, or more than one sub team. So it creates sub teams within a bigger team, and that's something that in 2020 they wanted to remove, and they removed it. So they don't have a development team anymore. Now they only talk about Scrum team. So Scrum team, which includes product owner, Scrum Master, and developers. So they're still developers, but they are only one Scrum team. There is nothing called a development team anymore. There is only one team, which is the Scrum team, and it's product owner, Scrum Master, developers. Yeah. Within those developers, Andrew, now answering your question, you could have as many skills required to deliver the product. So you could have BAs, you could have testers, you could have marketing people, you could have infrastructure people, architects, whatever you need to deliver the product. Does that answer your question, Andrew?
But it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, cool.
I was putting myself on mute.
Okay, so what is new in 2020? And I put there a quote: Scrum hasn't changed. We just found a better way to describe it. It got lighter, clearer, and more tightly coupled. And that was something that they've actually announced it in the video on the 18th of November, so about a month ago, where they celebrated how many years? Anyone knows how many years they celebrated this year? Scrum? What was the anniversary? 35. 25, yeah, that's right, 25. So 25 years, not 35, 25. And how old is Agile, by the way? Does anyone know?
20 in 2 months, in 1 month.
Yes, in actually 2 months. It's February, right? I think it's February 13. That's when they've agreed the principles. They agreed the values, not the principles. February 13. So Agile is going to be 20 years in February 2021. Scrum was 25 years on the 18th of November this year. And so what that means is that Scrum precedes Agile, but both can and Jeff are Agile Manifesto authors. So when those 17 computer scientists, as they used to call them, met in Utah, February 2001, Ken and Jeff were there. They were two of the of those 17, and so there was someone else, Mike Biddle, as well, who also contributed with Ken for the Scrum, for one of the Scrum books, and sadly passed away in 2018. So one of the first 17s to actually passed away. So let's have a look at what changed or what's new in 2020. So a lot less prescriptive, and why prescription is a problem. Because they suddenly realized that they were losing ground towards another framework of Agile, which is the one that is usually preferred for the simple fact that it is not prescriptive. Anyone has any idea which one it is?
Kanban.
Yeah,
Kanban.
absolutely. Absolutely, Kanban. So the reason why many people prefer Kanban is because there is very little rules, very, 2 or 3 maybe rules, that's it. Whilst Scrum still has a few things. So it's got a number of events, it's got a number of artifacts, and it's got 3 roles, defined roles. So you need to have those roles. And one thing is, if you read the new 2020 Scrum, towards the end, the writers, the co-owners, co-writers actually mention it. If you don't do whatever is here in this guide, you cannot claim you're doing Scrum. So it is still prescriptive, but it's a lot less prescriptive than what it was before. And now they're trying to make it a lot simpler. They soften the language, and they want to make it open to a much wider audience. Therefore, that's the reason why they call everyone developer, because everyone is a developer when you're talking about product development. Whatever that product is, everyone is a developer. Yeah, and so it's not so much linked to software and IT, but it's actually linked to anything you want to develop upon. So less prescriptive. One thing I noticed, and I don't think you will find this anywhere else. So all the other guides had the photographs of those two, Ken and Jeff, but the latest one doesn't have the photographs. So they've removed the photograph. They want to make it simpler. The naughty guy on me wants to say that actually they look a lot older. I don't know if you have watched the video. The video is on YouTube when they presented on the 18th of November, and they look extremely aged now. So maybe they don't want to show their faces anymore. I'm not sure. My assumption. Fewer words and shorter. So from 19 pages to 13 pages from 2017 to 2020. So a lot less. And you've heard less is good, right? Less is better. No more 3 questions on the daily Scrum. So now, what does it mean? What do you do in the daily Scrum? Anyone?
Isn't it a bit more based on the situation you're in? So you can actually talk about whereabouts you are and what did you do to help the team, or you could say what did you do to help the goal?
Yeah. So basically, the goal is still the same. How do we meet the sprint goal, or how do we maximize collaboration in order to maximize our chances of closing stories or of meeting the sprint goal in these 24 hours? Yeah. So it's a daily planning. It's a daily meeting, right? So but you don't need to follow those 3 questions. What did I do yesterday? What am I going to do today? What's in my way? You don't need to do that. So they've removed that, and by removing it, they made it less prescriptive. So that was the intent, removing it to make it less prescriptive. But it's still very much focused on achieving maximum collaboration and deliver the sprint goal. No more development teams. So I already mentioned that we now have a Scrum team. And we also have accountabilities for PO, Scrum Master, and developers. So before, only the product owner was accountable for delivering value. Now, Scrum Master is accountable as well, not for delivering value, but for maximizing the efficiency of the Scrum team and coaching the Scrum team to become high performance. It's not about telling the people what to do, but it's very much coaching towards high performance. So accountability is still very much on the process, on making sure that the team does what's on the guide, and also it's basically made accountable for efficiency. So making sure that there is value in a product increment. And developers the same thing. So they're accountable for the value. Introduction of a product goal at a time. So whilst we've continued to have sprint goal, an idea of a product goal is now being introduced in 2020. And each sprint brings the product closer to the product goal. And when I read this for the first time, I thought, this is probably what a product vision is. What do you think? Is product goal the same as product vision? Who wants to have a go?
Could you say that? Go on.
Right.
Is a product vision a bit more long-term than a product goal? So a vision is something, you could talk about, long time in the future, we'll get to this point, whereas, and has a kind of less measurable element to it, whereas a product goal is very measurable.
Yeah, I think you're right, Andrew. I think you're absolutely right. You're spot on. And the reason is they introduce the idea of a product goal, and they say one goal at a time. That means that the product might have more than one goal. Yeah. And the sprints are delivering towards that goal. So one goal at a time. I really like that because there is less context switching. It's almost like, let's introduce the concept of a feature and ask the team to deliver features end to end. Yeah. So one feature at a time. To me, product goal makes perfect sense. And it could be a goal for the next 3 months. And then another goal will come for the future 3 months. So you're absolutely right. So a vision is much less likely to change. When you talk about a vision, usually we're talking about 1 year, 2 year, 3 year vision, yeah, for a product. The vision is much more durable long term. And my understanding and my reading of this, and I've not discussed this with anyone else, but my reading of this, and especially because it is one product goal at a time, I feel that that's what they mean. Yeah. So there are things like they want to get the product closer to the goal, one goal at a time.
Yeah, Paulo, if I may add my thoughts to that. Yeah. So as you have rightly captured, its intent is to open to a much wider audience, right? And if we see now, Scrum is not something which is obviously around there from 25 years. It has to fit in very neatly with the scaled agile frameworks which are around. Yeah. If we consider the likes of SAFe, which are already having a very prescriptive way of calling out a product increment, which happen usually 3 months with a prescriptive date for each of the sprint, or sprint cadence is very well defined. In that sense, this product goal contributes to that PI, product increment, in my opinion, because if we are trying to vaguely leave it as a feature development, and as you rightly mentioned, product vision is 50,000 feet above the ground, then definitely what is that conduit? So this product goal could be a combination of multiple features, which can also be referred as a product increment if we are looking at it from the scaling perspective. And that way, they have opened up not only for doing Scrum in one business area, but now all of the teams which are working on a same product, they are working on a product increment by means of achieving a product goal in a sprint.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Amit. So well done. Thank you. I think you picked on a very important aspect, which is scaling. So looking ahead and say, okay, how do we get our product closer to product goal? And it could very well be the same product goal that other teams are working on as well. So yes, it's a good point. Although we probably need to give some more time to see how product goal evolves. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
I find it a little interesting here. The product vision has been removed from the Scrum Guide, and product goal has been added. So does that mean the product vision is not important anymore, and we have to create product goals instead of product vision? Right.
I'm not sure if the product vision, was product vision ever there?
Yep. Last.
Okay, I didn't notice that.
Previous one, you had product vision part of your Scrum Guide. Yes.
I don't think they've, well, yes, I agree with you. I see what you mean, product vision. So I think they are giving preference to product goal rather than product vision, because I think like this is again evolving, right? So I think what they're saying is that product goal, not to be confused to product vision, this is product goal at a time. So one at a time. And perhaps makes better sense to evolve from product vision into product goal, because it allows the team to focus on one thing at a time.
For me, it makes sense to have a product vision first before we set up a product goal, because vision is get started. Again, agile planning, you start with 50,000. What do you want to achieve with the product, which is your product vision? Then you define your roadmap, right? And you go down into your release planning and your sprint planning and daily planning. For me, it is important to start with the product vision to arrive at the product goal.
You're very welcome to continue talking about the product vision. I think what they're saying here is that whilst you have one product vision, you might have many product goals. And I wasn't aware that they've removed it, so I've not checked that, and I've not seen it anywhere as well. But it's a good point. I will do some more research on that.
Sure, we are all learning.
Yeah, good. Thanks. 3 commitments to bring transparency and focus. Does anyone know what those commitments are? No? Okay, so product goal, we already spoke about that. So product goal is a commitment to the product backlog. So product backlog needs to, make the product closer to the product goal. That's a commitment from the team. Sprint goal, make sure that the sprint backlog is closer to achieve the sprint goal. So during the sprint backlog, and the definition of done, they talk about that to make sure that everything that is part of that increment meets the definition of done. So those are the 3 new. Well, I won't say new. They were kind of understood, but now they are very specifically mentioned in this latest version of the Scrum Guide. And now they are also not mentioning anymore potentially releasable increments. So I'm not sure if you noticed that there is no mention of potentially releasable anymore. All they're saying is that the increment must be usable. So I don't know what is stronger, to be honest. Potentially releasable, or increment must be usable. I think, to be honest, increment must be usable is stronger. So that becomes like a little bit more challenging. I'm interested to hear your thoughts about this.
I think that this is related to DevOps, where actually, that with DevOps, you can release every 15 minutes. And instead, ideally with Scrum, you should be able to release at the end of the sprint. So the increment itself, it's not something that is related to the sprint, but is related to the feature. I think that in this way, the authors try to push people to make something usable as quick as possible and release it.
Yeah, actually, I think, Corrado, they actually mentioned that. I've read that just because they're doing Scrum, it doesn't mean that it needs to be releasable at the end of the sprint. It means that it can be released at any time. Anytime.
I second that, because I was about to say I contradict that, because Scrum never says that your release has to happen at the end of the sprint. As soon as you have produced some value by means of completing a story, putting it through all your DoD criterias, then you should be all the more eager to put it into the hands of customer.
Yeah.
And DevOps is just the means, I feel. Yeah.
So, yeah, and I feel that that might be the reason why they say increment must be usable. So as long as you've got something of use, you release. That's probably kind of the rationale behind this. So, in order to release, it needs to be usable, probably. But yeah, you can release it at any time. Okay, next. Interesting. Self-managing Scrum team, as opposed to what was there before?
Organizing.
Yeah, self-organizing. So what is the difference? Self-organizing, self-managing.
Is the how and the what.
Yeah, so who does what, when, and how? Before it used to be just the how. So they used to kind of depend almost on, there used to be a hierarchy with the product owner being as closer as to the boss, as you could think of. But now I think the team is also responsible for the what, what is on the product backlog. They decide. The team is self-managing, and it's interesting because I think self-organizing was a mistake from Ken and Jeff, and I'll tell you why. So when I did my last training with Craig Larman, Craig actually mentioned, because Craig knows Jeff really well, very, very close to Jeff. And Craig, and this was already about maybe 2-3 years ago, I've done my last training. And when he was training us, he said, well, I've been talking to Jeff a lot, and he never meant to say a team is self-organizing. He always meant a team is self-managed. And so this idea of self-organizing, I think it was included by mistake, and everyone is talking about self-organization. But yes, I think their idea was always self-managed Scrum team, a team that can sustain, a team that can work even if the product owner is not available. Yeah. So sustainability and managing themselves, become independent, become autonomous. It's one of the purposes of Scrum, especially that's become stronger with this latest guide. Would anyone disagree?
I completely agree on your point, Paulo, where you had mentioned about some of the bits of product owner roles being taken up by the development team as such, who is now part of the Scrum team, which is getting the prominence. But at the same time, I feel it also lessens the focus on Scrum Master's job to take teams towards the self-organization, because at many places in my experience, I have seen how the maturity of a Scrum team is gauged is like, can they run certain events without Scrum Master? Means if they can do, then they are self-organizing. I mean, definitely, guys, you are missing the point altogether, right? Because if you are trying to say that Scrum Master is just to facilitate the events, then definitely he is not able to take team to a self-managing mode where they are contributing in a way apart from, for example, software development project, not only from coding as per the specs or testing as per the criteria, acceptance criteria, but they are looking through the specs of a product owner from time to time. Is this feature meaningful for my end users? They are looking from the Scrum Master's point of time, that is this feature or my ways of working are collaborative enough for the different organizational units. And that way it is more appropriate to call it a self-managing team instead of self-organizing team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree with that. And I feel that self-managing is actually stronger. It's got a stronger meaning. It goes higher than actually self-organizing. It's everything that a self-organizing team is, plus it's also self-managed. So they will know a little bit of the why and the what and so on and so forth. Again, sprint planning from the what and how. Remember this, what and how, two parts of sprint planning. Now we're talking about the why as well. So why, what, and how. Less on how, more on why and what. This has become a lot stronger now with the message of 2020. And for those of you that spent the last 3 years understanding what servant leader is all about, servant leader has actually been renamed into accountable for Scrum Team effectiveness. So that's kind of what Ken and Jeff think that Scrum Master should be. And in my view, it's also a lot stronger. So accountable for effectiveness of the Scrum Team. And true leaders, so Scrum Masters are now true leaders who serve rather than just servant leaders. Yeah, so true leaders who serve, who actually coach the team to actually become a high performance. So that's important. Coaching the team becoming high performance, and also Scrum Team effectiveness. So also looking into value. Now, to me, this is their way, and I was reflecting about this. I don't know what you think, but to me, this is their way to say, actually, we don't need agile coaches. You guys, Scrum Masters, are agile coaches. And we don't have a role of agile coach in Scrum. And therefore, you are a true leader who coach. You coach the organization, you coach the Scrum team, and you coach the product owner. We don't actually need agile coaches. So bad news for us, Corrado, as agile coaches. Just joking. But what are your thoughts about that?
I know some Scrum Masters that are really far from being coaching.
Yeah. I think there are skills that coaches have that Scrum Masters don't have yet, but those are, that doesn't stop a Scrum Master of achieving those skills. They can actually get those coaching skills required.
So one of the thoughts I had about the servant leadership and true leadership is we spent quite a time discussing, debating about what a servant leader is, right? In forums, in agile communities, Scrum communities. Now we are introduced to a different term. I don't know if it's similar or is closer, but it's true leader. Now, again, we might spend a lot of time discussing about true leaders and how is it different and similar to servant leader, but I'm just trying to understand the context of bringing that true leader and clarifying it with that servant leader. Probably that would have been required there.
I think the true leader here, Sergio, I think it's becoming, it comes about with the accountability that the Scrum Master has now got. So before, there was no account, so only product owner was accountable. Accountability was a product owner. Now, Scrum Guide says, no, Scrum Master is also accountable. It's accountable for the process, it's accountable for effectiveness of the Scrum team. It's accountable for coaching the organization and coaching the Scrum team and so on and so forth. So there is accountability. There is also accountability on the Scrum team itself as a whole. Yeah. So those things were not there before. We all heard the story that, product owner is accountable for the value that gets delivered. Product owner is accountable for maintaining the product backlog ordered and so on and so forth. Now we're looking into other accountabilities. And I think with accountability, true leadership comes in. And I think that's the point I want to bring up.
Awesome. Thanks.
Question, Paulo, about the accountability. After reading the guide, the new guide, actually, I think that the word role is substituted by the word accountability. So I think that in the new version, there are 3 accountabilities and not exactly 3 roles. And so this
interesting.
It's something, let me say, wider, because a role, it's like a name that you have. You are a Scrum Master, for example. But when you have the accountability, actually, you can call also project manager. Okay, I'm doing a trick. You can be a project manager with that accountability. So it's not the name, it's the goal why you are doing this job that makes the difference.
Yeah. No, I think you may have a point there. Yes, I see your point, Corrado. Okay, so that was all. What we now have is the fun part of this session, which is actually a game. Should you take the challenge? What I now have, so if you go back to Menti, what I now have is a quiz for all of us to play. Okay, so, well, I'm not going to play because I know the answers. So, but the next, I'm hoping that you can all join now. So please start joining for question 1. So we've got 16 questions. Every 5 questions, except for the last one, the last block, we will have a leaderboard to show who is leading. So you are free to join in with your real names or with a nickname, whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable with. And let's play. Okay, is everyone ready? I've got 8 people who joined. Please, I'm not sure what is happening at the moment. I think it's asking for your names, right? Corrado, what's happening at the moment on your?
Yeah. I am the ring. So you ask a nick and then you submit and you
Okay,
are.
cool. So we've got 9 players already. Let's see how many people are there.
We are 19. So please join.
Okay, let's give it. Because this is really fun. And also we can have a discussion with every single question. Okay, so there's a lot of learning to come from a quiz as well. So 13 people, let's give it another minute. Don't feel shy, but it's okay. I think, does anyone need more time? Please let me know, otherwise we'll start. Anyone requires more time?
Go, Paulo, go.
Okay, that's cool. So I'm going to present the first question. So answer fast to get more points. Scrum was first announced. In what city was the conference? I think I mentioned the state in the session. So let's see. Okay, very good. So 7 people answered Austin, Texas. And yes, Snowbird is the Agile meet. It's not the Scrum presentation of the paper. In San Francisco, New York are wrong. But well done for those 7. Second question. What was the name of that article?
Here I have a comment, Paulo.
Yeah, carry on.
After showing the responses.
10 people got it right. Well done, all of you who got it right. So this is good. Yeah.
That the title is the new product development game.
That's right. There's 2 news in there. It's a new product development game.
I think it has actually 2 products. The new product. Well, it might be.
No,
yeah.
it's about new products. It's the new game to produce new products. That's why they call it the new product development game.
Are you talking about the article written by those 2 Japanese guys, or are you talking about
the article,
the Scrum Guide?
Okay. No, the article that the 2 professors wrote.
Okay, fine. In that case, there's a disclaimer. Just choose the closest answer, and the closest answer is 10. Okay, I'll stand corrected. I'll have a look. Thank you. Next question. Now, this question is just general knowledge. I'm not sure if you heard Ken and Jeff on his video on the 18th of November. They actually mentioned it. Yeah, it is actually Easel Corporation, not Computer Associates, but yeah, good try. 7 for CA. It's Easel Corporation 93. That's when they fully implemented the first version of Scrum. And then as a base for that, they wrote their paper. Question 4. What's the main responsibility of a tester? Yeah. So there is no role as a test. This was a tricky question. No role as a tester in Scrum. There are only 3 roles. But yeah, that was the closest. Question 5. Scrum values. Remember Scrum values? Excellence. Yes, excellence is not a value. And question 6. Another general knowledge question. Yeah, they both served in the military. So by the way, if you don't know Ari, Ari is an Agile Manifesto author, but is nothing to do with Scrum. And so they did not go auto Scrum. So this was a tricky question, but both Jeff and Ari served in the military, and I think Ari is actually Dutch. Jeff is American. Question 8. No, it was actually Ken Schwaber and Mike Biddle. You might have remembered that I've mentioned there was Mike Biddle, who was very much involved with Ken in the very much beginning of Scrum. So he contributed to a few papers as well. Mike was actually started Enterprise Scrum. I don't know if you heard of the book Enterprise Scrum. Sadly, Mike was also an Agile Manifesto, so they all, all 17 were very close friends. And Mike was actually murdered in 2018 with a knife attack, mugged and a knife attack, and died, sadly. So he's the first of the 17 to die. But he died in 2000. But he was actually the co-author of the first Scrum book with Ken Schwaber. So this is that book that I presented in the session with the colors, the first Scrum book. So question 10. Well done, everyone. So Scrum Alliance, almost everyone. Yes, the first edition was Scrum Alliance when Ken and Jeff were part of it. And then, Ken left Scrum Alliance in 2009, just before it got published in 2010, but left and then started Scrum.org. Obviously, as soon as he started Scrum.org, they were not ready to publish the other editions of Scrum. The Scrum Guide, but after that it was always published by Scrum.org. Oh, leaderboard, important. Let's see it. So Koala, Ribbit, Dex. We know who Dex is. SS, Amit. Yeah, well done, everyone. So remember, you're being assessed by points, by fastest response as well. So you see a lot can change still. So let's have a look. What goes next? So now it's question 11. Well done. 9 people said 2011. Next question.
However, I like this quiz, Paulo.
Well done. 2017. This is quite, we spoke about this quite recently.
Even if
And
I'm not going to win.
15. So 2 more questions to go. Get set. How many pages? Easy one, yeah? God, 2 people still got it wrong. 13. We reduced from 19 to 13 in the latest version. And last question. Your last opportunity to master and win. Yes, false. Yeah, so what did they replace with? Anyone?
It doesn't specify.
Exactly. It's not there anymore. So that means that whatever the team finds useful to increase collaboration and get closer to the sprint goal, that's what the team should do. So by removing those 3 questions, they are removing prescriptiveness. They're making it less prescriptive. They're allowing the team to innovate and allow the team to come with the best solution. So they're trusting more the team to be to know how to self-manage and how to get the best results. So that's a good thing. And walk the board is actually a good technique. It's a good practice that a lot of people use. So I use walk the board quite a lot. And it's just checking, how can we maximize our walking the board, the Scrum board, and how can we maximize amount of business value delivered today. So what is the story in the board that could actually complete today? And let's collaborate and let's see if we can close that story today. So walking the board is also a good technique. So well done, everyone. This is the end. I'm hoping that there will be good results. So, oh, look at that. It changed. No, it's still Koala. Okay. So Koala won. I wonder who Koala is, Zach.
No. I was Ribbit. I twitched. I got a couple of questions incorrect, so not
so
me.
who's Koala?
Not me.
Oh, there is a koala there. There is a koala. There is someone called Koala, actually. There is actually, it's a real name, isn't it? I think it is. Koala. Yeah, well done. Congratulations, Koala. Yeah, actually won. And second one, Ribbit. So that's you, Zach.
Yeah,
and
that was me. I decided
third
to be
one,
anonymous.
SS and Amit and Dex and Poogie and Ming and Andrew. So well done, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. What could be a good takeaway for you in this session?
Well, I start.
Yeah, carry on.
I really like the introduction about what happened before this upgrade, this update. There are some particulars that I really missed in this 10-year story. So thank you for let me think about that.
Great. Anyone else?
I think the main takeaway for me was it's reflecting where the world wants to go, becoming less prescriptive. The more rules, the more restrictions you put on something, you kill the creativity, you kill the joy of going from one place to other. So that's what they have embraced at its core. So I think that was very aptly done right after the COVID.
Yeah, thanks, Amit. Who wants to go next?
I think for me, the lack of prescription is really helpful. I've used things like Scrumban in the past and to get rid of some of that heavy prescription in the process, because to make it easier to follow and actually a bit more flexible. So I think the lack of prescription really makes a big difference to me.
Yep. Thanks, Andrew. Ah, we can see Koala's face now. Well done, Koala. Well done. Congratulations. Where are you based? Are you in London?
Munich.
Oh, you're in Munich. Oh, well done. Oh, we've got 3 people from Germany today. Well done, everyone.
Yeah, good. Amazing. Really love it. Okay, guys, I think it's really late also for Munich and Germany, because it's 9 p.m. So thank you for being till the end, and thank you, Paulo, for sharing this session. Again, I want to say again, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. And our next event will be on the 12th of January. We are going to host Luca Minudel, and we have a book premiere, because today, Luca announced his book about complexity and about Kinevian framework. So if you want to know more about that, you are invited to join our session on 12th of January. There will be also a raffle or something like that. We have to arrange something next time. So we have 1 month roughly to prepare them. Thank you for coming. Any conclusion, Paulo, from you?
No, I'm very happy to be here, and thanks for inviting me. And for me, I learned so much by doing this presentation, to be honest. So yeah, takeaway for me is, get out there, collaborate, give back to the community. Each one of you, I suppose, is invited to actually do a talk sometimes, because it does help you to consolidate your learning and actually share with others what you already know. So that's what I think. I've not taught anything. I've just facilitated the learning. And I think we all brought up this learning together. So well done, everyone.
Thank you for highlighting this. Paulo is the owner of Scrum Events, that is another large community here in London. And as you can see, I'm always inviting you to have a talk in our community, because if a community is alive when all the member participates to the life of the community. So if you have some content, if you have a case, or if you have a fail that you want to share, please contact me on LinkedIn or here in the message from Meetup, and we can exchange an email and we can arrange it. Okay, so thank you, Paulo, for underlining this. It's really helpful.
Thank you.
And okay, friends, thank you for coming, and let me stop the recording and enjoy the rest of the year.